Well, hello, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of Buddhist Biohacker. We're almost to 300 episodes, if you guys can believe that, since 2020. So crazy. So welcome all of you that are coming in, and we love your comments. So please ask questions throughout the show, and you can also share. I love hearing where you're from and how you're feeling right now in this world. It's eclipse day. It's a lunar eclipse tonight at 8:12 p.m. Mountain Time. So we are in the heat of eclipse season right now. It's kicking off. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I've changed the name of the YouTube channel to Channeling from the Divine. I have another book coming out that I'm working on right now about all of my trance channeling experiences. So we're kind of changing it up on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed, please click that button. I appreciate that. Like and share also. Algorithms are in favor of heart-centered spirituality on here now. So let's make that happen. And all of that to say, I'm your host, Lisa Gunshore, for those of you who forgot about me, because I haven't been on very much lately. And I am really excited. I am here with Katie Silcox. She is the founder of the Shakti School. I'm a graduate of that school. That's where my wellness certification comes from. She is New York Times bestselling author of Healthy, Happy, Sexy, and has a new book, Glow Worthy. And Katie, I'm super happy to have you here.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to be back. That intro was so rad. It took me through all the portals of fun and play and like jazz. I'm already just so happy to be here with you, Lisa.
Well, I love making film. That's a weird thing that came out of 2020 and lockdowns and whatnot. I love making film. And my husband's a drummer, and he actually made that music. That's his composition of electronic music. And I keep telling him to finish the song because I'm like, I think you could probably sell this song. Like, it's pretty good.
So good.
Well, I want to dive right into it. Like, we might as well get Plutonian right out of the gate, I feel like, and just get deep in. I want to go on a short rant as context to my question, which is, I think there's so much distortion of feminine energy on this planet, I think, really. And I have a little story to share with you, Katie. Like last week, I have 3 stepdaughters, and we were sitting at the kitchen table talking about my oldest she's graduating high school and she's trying to decide what to do with her life and all those things. And I made a comment. I was like, if I could, like, I would just do my spiritual work and be a mom and be at home and take care of you guys and do my thing. And the amount of panic that came from the 3 girls that would be all I would want to do, actually it took me back. I was like, what? Like, really? That stresses you out? They have such a mentality of like, we have to be CEOs and we have to go out there. And it doesn't mean we don't. And so my question is, I went to Shakti School. I was drawn to it because of the feminine energy, because of the work that you're creating with that school. And since then, I started to pursue an Ayurveda practitioner certification. And I actually stopped because I just couldn't, the masculine energy, the hierarchy, like all that energy. And so here I am just saying to you, like, how do you bring the feminine forward? How do we pursue what we're here to do in life? Ooh, and I get goosebumps everywhere. As women in a position of power while still being feminine and having children and, being in nature and doing all the things that women do. So that's my packaged big question for you today.
Yeah, let's go immediately to the depths of the depths. Like, your young girls at the dinner table are expressing their prana, their energy at this moment. When you are their age, you have a seemingly unlimited reservoir of personal energy that makes women and men, young people, very certain of the way things should be and are. And it's not unique to your daughters. It's all of us. It's how we were as well. And God, with the grace of God, we get our ass handed to us and we begin to become wise if we're lucky. If not, we stay unwise. And you are obviously tapping into your own wisdom that many of us are coming to, which is a similar conclusion that I don't have a personal, limitless reservoir of energy. And as we age and we see that this life is a sacred gift that doesn't last forever, we begin to ask that question that gave you chill bumps, Lisa. And that was, what the hell is this really about? And what do I want to do with my one and sacred life? And how do I want to use my energy?
Yeah.
How can I be in relationship? And here's the second part of the inquiry, with not only my personal reservoir of energy, but the relationship to the unlimited reservoir of energy. And in that, we have sort of an advantage over the younger people who rarely tap in, right? What makes us tap into to God, to divinity, to spirit, to support, to prana, to energy? What makes us do that? And usually it is tragedy. It's crisis. It's trauma. It's having the rug pulled out from underneath you. So there's that one piece that's like the humility piece. And then the second thing I think you're tapping into is just the culture that we live in.
Yeah.
The culture that we live in is not the Shakti school that you went to. In fact, you tried to go to another school and your soul made you leave, right? And now you understand why I started the school. It wasn't as a reaction or a negativity towards any particular school. I had a wonderful experience, but I knew this isn't the whole story. And it's certainly not the whole story when it comes to healing, evolving. Being actually a yogi means to awaken to that which you are unawake to. And so, I mean, I can say more about like, what even is this feminine energy we're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, let's get into that, because I think there's what I've observed is there's this very intense, and it's especially in the Western culture. I know I have a lot of folks from New Zealand and Australia, and it's a little different there. But in our culture, there's this, I'm this powerhouse woman energy that's different. It's very masculine from this embodied feminine strength, I think.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, let's talk about that. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. And also, let's just also say before we go there, Lisa, is that your daughter's generation and a little older, they're waking up to the fact that this isn't working.
Yeah.
There are a lot of young women in the culture right now that, quote, just want to be housewives, and we need to honor them and not denigrate them. Tapping into the longing to be nested, to be inside a home, to be cooking, to be making herbal formulas, to be making flower arrangements and the home beautiful. This is a goddess. It's a goddess energy that is as worthy. Hera, the wife of Zeus, is just as powerful as Artemis, who couldn't give a crap about the house, who was never married, in fact, probably a lesbian, out in the woods shooting her arrow. And so I think, what is the feminine? This is the great question. Firstly, the feminine is the continual, spontaneous unfolding of raw, primal life energy, limitless, constant, consistently birthing herself, sustaining herself for a moment and dying off. It is life force. It is the thing that makes the rose bloom. It's the thing that makes us have orgasms. It's the thing that brings a baby out of your body. It's the thing that is going to kill you off in the end. It's the part of Mother Nature that can be an ocean that can let you surf and rest and ride the waves, or who can be a riptide that can pull you right into the middle and kill you off. It's nature. It's our nature. It's in men. It's in women. It's everywhere. We are literally swimming in the feminine. We were birthed in her, swimming in her. And when we die, we go back, right? So how do we begin to be so bold and audacious and silly, in fact, like I am, to try to define it? Because she is the thing that breaks all the boxes. Just when you think you have Mother Nature figured out, she shows up in a new way. And yet there are ways to look at her, to see her patterns, and to work with her. When we get in alignment with that flow of her patterning, we call that Ayurveda. When we get in alignment with her flow, we call it health, right? And so the feminine, we have this very limited, and it's not our fault. We just haven't been taught about it. And then we have a very limited idea of what it is. The feminine doesn't really have anything to do with dresses or makeup or feminine, I'm going to use my feminine energy to get him to do what I want. And it doesn't even have to do with mothering, if you could believe that. It has to do with being so willing, Lisa, to stay soft and open to whatever is happening. That's the best way I can define her. And when you do that, you start to become willing to be annihilated.
Mm-hmm.
So from that place, now I can be a lover, I can be a fighter, I can be a CEO, I can be a mother, I can stay at home, I can go in the streets. It doesn't really matter. My heart is soft and open. That's the feminine. Now party, now play, now rest, do whatever. That's the whole point of the feminine, that she's the everything. And then we must ask, okay, then what's the masculine? The masculine is the part of us that is the essence of our mind that is continually at rest and at peace and watching her play. And that is so important for women to tap into. The peace, the quiet, the limitless calm that is their real father and their real husband or wife. You can be gay. So on a cosmic level, like that's what I'm trying to get down with. And then, last night I went and I appeared on this thing called the California Association of Ayurvedic Medicine. Freaking amazing, right? And they asked me, it will make sense in a moment, what is the feminine? They asked me to give a talk on feminine form Ayurveda, which apparently I coined and invented. And I'm like, well, they just gave it a name, right? And I go and there's like 200 people and many of them were Indian, which was like so fun because I mostly teach Westerners. And it was also like slightly intimidating because here's this white girl trying to talk about Ayurveda to Indian people. And the talk was about what is feminine form Ayurveda. And I had this whole slideshow, Lisa. And you know me. I just talked for 45 minutes. No slideshow was presented. I just went off on my little Ayurveda Rumi Hafiz rant. And at the end, I went, oh my God, you all, I'm so sorry I didn't share the slideshow. And I'll share it with you later. And a woman came on the screen and she said, the feminine doesn't have a slideshow.
100%.
And so like, that's the conclusion. Like the feminine doesn't have a slideshow. She is in this moment, just partying and playing and being.
That's beautiful. And yeah, I mean, there's this whole idea. I always think of Ishvara Pranadhana, right? That surrender, like that to me, when the feminine is balanced. I love what you said about soft and open, and want to dive a little bit more into what you said about being in alignment with your flow, because I think sometimes we seek out systems like Ayurveda and other systems to try to control our flow. Many of us have had chronic illness and all sorts of things that led us to this path. And I think we're trying to control something, right? We're dealing with our fear of death, fear of mortality. And, so I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about that, but I just think there's more, when all of you out there who are listening here, being in alignment, and that's true, whether it's your soul alignment, your physical alignment, your emotional alignment, the alignment is, to me, the surrender into nature's flow. And that's when we finally listen to it. I think That's when you finally realize, wow, I totally blew out all of my Shakti and I need to probably sleep.
Yeah. You know, I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think first it's okay to not be in alignment and to be and to be controlling. And let's start from there. Like, it's okay. That's also an expression of divinity.
Mm.
And is it helpful? Is it useful over time? Are we ready to go to the next level of opening? And then what we might do is make ourselves this new project. Okay, my new project is I'm going to be open and soft no matter what, you know, and now that becomes the new way of getting hard. So the gig is to open to the fact that you're hardening, to open to the fact that you're being controlling, to open to the fact that, because what I've realized, Lisa, is like, another way of saying this for people out there listening is like, this is freeze in the nervous system. She wants to be with us. This is freeze in the nervous system. It's the way that we harness ourselves and sit ourselves up to be able to just endure our lives during some periods. So we want to kind of just honor that. And then what does it look like to be in the flow of nature, or to be in your flow, or to have that alignment? Like, what does that practically look like or mean? And I think it's more literal than people realize. It's not a mental body experience. It's not a cognitive experience. It's a way of showing up to the experience, the raw experience of your body, to the raw experience of your mind, to the raw experience of your emotions. Just in this moment right now, what would it feel like to just open to what's here? And you'll start to see, oh my God, I've got like so much tension in my belly. Cool. Before, you weren't even seeing that because you were running around doing your to-do list or your job or your project. Okay, now you're feeling it. Oh, I don't want that feeling there. And now you see, I am in a subtle warfare with reality. I don't want it. And it's okay. Nobody wants pain. Oh, wow, look at the way that I have an aversion. Oh, wow, look at the way that I crave this. And you're a Buddhist. So it's like craving and aversion, right? What if I could open to the craving and open to the aversion without wanting it to be different? And what we see over and over again is, as we begin to open to what's actually here, I'm soft, I'm malleable, and energy, actual physical, and all the other levels, but let's just be practical for listeners. Your body starts to open. The circulation, the lymphatics, the muscle tension lets go. The fluids start to flow. The pineal gland starts to light up. The hormones can churn. You feel better, right? Just being willing to be with what you are without resisting it, even if it's being with resistance.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sounds easy, but it's like the biggest act of courage and bravery on the planet. I mean, Lisa, Dr. Ladd, our teacher, says, enjoy your crucifixion, enjoy your resurrection. You're not going to enjoy it. He doesn't mean, oh, yeah, party. He means open to it.
Yeah.
And I have gone through literally one of the hardest weeks of my life last week. I had COVID. A personal thing came up in my family, unexpected. That was a bombshell. I'm moving and I'm renovating a home and I'm running Shakti School and blah, 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 blah. It's not, oh, poor me. It's to say, this could have been the worst experience. And I had this thing sitting on my counter in the kitchen, and it said, your only job is to stay open and soft to everything that's happening inside and outside. That's your only job, is how you choose to show up and not react. That's your only job. And if we can do that, you know this, it's like I'm with someone else. I'm with the God force. I'm with the higher heart. I'm with the higher mind, and I'm on task, irrespective of the outcome, which isn't always what we want. And I think that is a long-winded way of saying much of the same.
Yeah. No, I love it. And there, just what you're saying is inspiring me, the challenges that we're handed. I think you and I both have had a lot of life lessons in the past. And when you're given difficult things now, that openness, that presence, that willingness to be the witness. I've never cried the way that I cry, where you finally feel like you can rest in your tears. Like you can just let yourself be in that space. And the more that I'm in that space and in true, what I feel is true healing finally for me, the more you just want to be with yourself, I think, the less I want to do. And it doesn't mean that creative energy isn't there. It doesn't mean I'm not here talking to you today. And it means I think we become protective of that present space and the quality. I'm only interested in doing this with certain people and at certain times. It's not this like need to output. And I love, so your subtitle of Glowworthy is Practices for Awakening Your Inner Light and Loving Yourself as You Are, Broken, Beautiful, and Sacred. Now, I'm a Scorpio. I'm a final degree Scorpio, so I love that. And it reminded me of this Alanis Morissette song, which I don't know what Gen X woman doesn't love her, but she has a song called Orchid, and there's this stanza that says, I'm a sweet piece of work, well-intentioned yet disturbed, wrongly labeled and underfed, treated like a rose as an orchid. And I just thought of that when I read your subtitle. I hadn't even gotten into the book yet. There's something really beautiful about the collective trauma that I think a lot of us share from our own, whatever that experience was, but there's this collective trauma and it's everywhere on social media, right? How to deal with narcissism, how to deal with codependency, how to work through these things. And I think this idea of being sacred and broken at the same time.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, firstly, what a beautiful way of describing your place right now. Lisa, you and I will do another interview a year from now, and you'll be in a different place and you'll be raring to go. And to everything, turn. There is a season, and I think you and I both are feeling that energy of this moment, of the eclipse, of our collective middle-agedness and weariness, and yet hopefulness and fullness in God. What we're really talking about is our connection to the deathless and good, right? If it is occurring, you are equal to the task, is this idea in tantric medicine, in shamanism, in mysticism, in alchemy. It's occurring for you, not to you. And, I think yay, the collective, right? And yay, social media, and yay. Why yay? Because that which was hidden is now no longer a secret. That which was in families' closets is now vomited out on Instagram. That which was once taboo is now overt. And so that's probably good, right? We all know the shadow side of this. Yep. The shadow side of all of this, just in case we aren't clear, is called projection. So I remember Dr. Swoboda saying social media is just the worst because it's not real. It's a selfie. And selfies are talking to selfies online, right? And so it's actually like one layer removed from reality. If maybe it helps people begin to understand their family history or their journey, yay. But what I see more often is it's a place where people can actually horizontally locate themselves by seeing their dark side in someone they call the other. So anytime I hear someone saying my ex was a narcissist, or she's a narcissist, or top 10 signs of a narcissist and why you should run, and they're toxic. You guys, the first thing I think is, are you the narcissist? Because I'm the narcissist, and I'm the codependent, and I'm the victim, and I've been the perpetrator, and I've been the saint, and I've been the martyr. And the more we can really remember that most of the population is not a sociopath or a psychopath. It is a very tiny, tiny, infinitesimally small percentage of people who are actually a textbook sociopath. And yet it's become so, you got me on a tangent because I have opinions about this. It's like, and yet social media is like everyone in their family has like 6 narcissists that they don't speak to. I think we're just so quick to label everyone. Everybody has ADHD and everybody's on the spectrum of autism, and it's not to minimize those true diagnoses that are real. I'm not minimizing that. And I know a lot about autism for various reasons, and autism is growing, right? But my point being, on a psyche level, we're outsourcing our dark side on the internet.
Yes.
And I think we can increase our health, unless in situations of overt abuse where you need to get out of situations, right? To actually see the people in your life are mirroring back to you the unprocessed aspect of your experience. They are actually mirroring it. And then you begin to become really awake and really powerful energetically, because you are no longer denying that aspect of self. And then the energy hidden therein can be liberated and now useful. Does that resonate?
Oh, totally. And I think the invitation to everybody who's listening, right, is, to me, social media is that. It is an invitation to looking at, what are you drawing in? What's showing up in those algorithms? I went through an experiment, Katie. We want to go on a social media tangent for a minute. I went on an experiment about 2 years ago, and I removed all of the stuff I was following. And I started following what inspired me. And my feed went from feeling kind of heavy and bogged down with a lot of stuff and people and things, to beautiful food, art, photography, Ayurveda. And I completely changed my own feed. And so I feel like looking at, what are you really scrolling through? What are you really looking? Is it inspiring you? Or is it weighing you down? And yes, shadow work is an old discipline of mine at this point, I think. And a lot of you listening and a lot of people in this community know all about self-inquiry, because I think it's all we talk about. But like you're saying, Katie, there's this idea of like looking at those mirrors in your life and those reflections, and are you taking action on what is being reflected on you? I remember the first time I read Memories, Dreams, Reflections with Carl Jung, and he was talking about his fainting and his neuroses. And I was living in Boulder at the time. I was going to school at Naropa, and I sat down and I was looking at my fingers, and I bit my nails like crazy, like my whole life, actually recently that changed, which I think is part of my nervous system changing. But, and I remember like that was an awakening moment for me, to look at my cuticles all raw and realizing like, and that came through what Jung was speaking about, but it was like, wow, like that is a big deal. Whatever I'm doing to myself here is a big deal. This is a neuroses, and where is this coming from? And that small invitation led to more than we have time to discuss in a day, right? As far as what I uncovered about myself. And it's been a pulse check for me my nail biting, when I'm doing it, when I'm not doing it, when I notice like, wow, these are not even touching them. And when I do, when my daughter does it and doesn't do it.
Wow.
Right. And so I think when we talk about these mirrors, and I know you're in the midst of your Jungian study, and he's my buddy. The other thing I'll say is Carolyn Mace has this deck of archetype cards, and I worked with those for a few years too, and I highly recommend those to everyone. And I would just pull one, like, what's the archetype I need to work on? And when you pull the thief and you think about what you're stealing, what time you're stealing, what energy you're stealing, there's just a lot of things. So I don't know if I even have a question as much as just I'm going to throw it back to you on all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I love that we're tracking similar things. I'm always a process unfolding. I'm always becoming more curious about different things. And I was listening. I'm studying a lot of Alan Watts these days. I'm sure you know Alan and his Zen Buddhist sort of background, but he's such a scholar in almost everything. And he was talking about, and this is just a follow-up to the archetypes, that we group them as good and bad. And he was saying that there's this old Zen phrase in Japan: when two Zen masters meet one another on the path, they say, "Hello, thief." And the other one says, "What's up, thief?" And it's considered actually a great compliment in that I know I'm a dodgy motherfucker. There's the archetype in Western culture of the Joker, right? The comic, the rogue. And the Joker, I'm getting chill bumps. The Joker is the most powerful card because it can be anything. And there's like a reverence for this part of our humanity that makes us wily little creatures. We're all thieves. We're all rogues. We've all got that little streak of devil. And I'm interested in that for the first time, because I've spent most of my teenage to adult life becoming the girl who's on the cover of Yoga Journal, the Ayurveda girl, the golden blonde haired whatever, right? Good. And Lisa, you've spent enough time with me to know, holy shit, what a limited version. And I'm not unique. Like, I'm everyone. I have a partner right now. I've been dating someone, and he was he was like the second highest rank in the Marines.
Oh, wow.
Been all over the world, worked with all the presidents, blah, blah, blah. And I said to him the other day, you're a real bastard. You got a real rogue inside of you. And he was like, no, I'm a good guy. And I was like, I'm now a little scared of you. I am afraid of people who think they're good.
Yeah.
Carl Jung, like, it's better to be anything but good. Only good is a sign that you've got a lot of untapped dark.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's prevalent in the New Age metaphysical realm at this time. And really probably the last decade, I think more than anything, I think it's gotten to this place where it's like, I'm going to be spiritual. And, we've been talking about it in here, this idea of, there's a lot of power being taken away from the individual. I think, being immersed in metaphysics since 2005, pre-2012, pre-2020, like pre all this stuff, in the good old days, it was about what you're talking about. It was about
that you've seen it change.
I've watched it change. I've watched it change to, and no offense, but I don't think my community will take offense, but it's changed to angel cards and fluffy rainbows and unicorns. And it concerns me as a healer because I feel like we're missing the point. And there's so much, and there's so much of not accepting one side or the other, and these people are bad and these people are good, and this person is bad and this politician is this and this thing. And I think, again, it's just another invitation for everyone. Like, we are all that. and it's dangerous, I think, in the new age communities right now to say, well, this is right, this is the light, this is false light, this is real light. It's like, it's all one.
And by the way, whoever is saying this is false light, they're putting themselves in the position of she who determines. That's scary.
Yeah.
So you are the one that determines? Oh, that's a God complex.
100%.
And I think it's good. May this podcast be for the benefit of the current culture. May it. And what I'm seeing and what you're seeing, because we're tracking the same thing, Lisa. This is what we're grappling with, is the most violent polarization of society in the history of our lifetime. The good, the bad. I did a whole thing when Trump won the vote in 2016. I got on Facebook. I was a younger, dumber woman, and I cried. I mean, I was channeling what many of us were feeling, right? And then I had to do a Buddhist practice because my teacher loves me and wants to help me be wise. And I had to, because I hated him so much. She made me do this practice where in Buddhism, you hold the enemy in your arms as your baby. Because they've been your baby, says the Buddhist tradition. They've also been your mother, and they've been your child. And so I did this with Trump, and I watched a documentary about his psychology and his history, and I was just flooded with compassion. Now, that doesn't mean maybe or maybe not these people aren't dangerous, right? It doesn't mean that you fall in love with them. But I also listened to highly recommend anyone out there wants more on this. Lisa Marciano is one of the most brilliant minds on the planet right now. She's a Jungian analyst that has a podcast called This Jungian Life. And I think she's one of the most honest voices out there. And she talked about the Trump complex. And it's so liberating for those that hate him to go listen to that and hear perhaps where that's coming from. Right. And then you could also have the whole other side, right? Like, I think we're living in a time where we're also afraid to even talk. We're afraid to even have an opinion that's not the dominant narrative of what our, quote, in-group thinks is acceptable. When the majority of the people on the planet right now hold very reasonable, nuanced, middle ground, loving orientations. Sadly, we're losing those people one at a time to more extremist viewpoints. But I think it's just important to name it, because if we're afraid to even talk, it's a sign, right? That we've lost the malleability of the prana, right? The energy's malleability. I just feel so hopeful, though. Like last night, I was at this Ayurveda conference I was telling you about. You would think the Ayurveda or yoga world would be this place where that wasn't there, right? And it's everywhere. It's this venomous disease and poison that's infected every institution, every group, where there's so much fear. And that doesn't lead to good conversations. It leads to warfare.
Yeah. Yeah. And to that point, I've talked about this on the show before, but Rob Gauthier has been on the show. He's the ET whisperer. So he was on a Netflix documentary, the interviews with EDs, and he's quite amazing. So if those of you who are interested, go to his YouTube, ET Whisperer. But he had this channeling about the politics, which I think is true. This information is true for all things. But I loved it, which was the point from that interdimensional perspective. The point of Trump and Biden, for example, is for the collective to see that the system is corrupt and broken from either side.
Yes.
And so I think it's important for us to come out of that space of this is right and this is wrong. We're missing that bigger viewpoint of, wow, like we're all collectively seeing that there's a need.
How could we not?
Right. And I think that that is the call to action. And so if everyone can pull out, and that's true for any of our systems, these archaic systems, these masculine systems that are in place that aren't in flow, like that's what, to me, what we want to remember is happening here is that this is no longer in flow. And you're being shown it, whatever side you're on. And I just love that teaching because I feel like that was like one of the most profound channeled messages I've ever heard, because even for me, it was like, yeah, that's right. And
I definitely want to listen to that.
I'll post the link. We'll get the link in the show notes, and I'll definitely send it to you because it was just like, oh, I see. I see. And it's interesting because he and I, definitely see eye to eye on a lot of things. And it's true in medicine as well. I think that's something that, he and I talked about with medicine is the same thing. There's a polarization right now in medicine of what's right and what's wrong. And is it allopathic? Is it natural? Should I get an injection? Should I not get an injection? All these things. And the message that I received in channeling that Rob also agreed with, Katie, is that the idea here is, are you in alignment? If you make a decision for your physical well-being that is not in alignment with your own system inherently, it's going to manifest in imbalance, right?
That rings a bell of memory in me of the great healer from my state, Edgar Casey. We're channeling similar things, and he said, some people have castor oil consciousness. You put a castor oil pack because that's what you are called to, and other people have injection consciousness or pharmaceutical consciousness. And you may think, oh, well, are you one or the other? No. In the moment, what is in alignment for me? I am so grateful for Western medicine. It's helped me so much in moments of my life. And, also I'm the founder of a school for natural medicine. And so I think, a big step in healing for me was realizing that neither is the angel and neither is the devil. And I think that's the real big question of our time. I love this idea. My teacher says the real subversive stance is to pull yourself out of the whole situation and look down, not spiritually bypassing anything, but to look down and say, where in me is there an inner Trump? Where in me, if you hate Biden, is there an inner Biden? Like, what is it about this that is so touching for you, whether good or bad? And I think that we can have a lot of compassion. This is a very, very interesting time.
I agree. And I think how we come out of the polarization, if we look at, and not to get too interdimensional, but if we look at interdimensional species, the polarization is so much more subtle. And I think that is what we want to do now, is the subtlety comes from how we started this conversation, which is being open and soft and flowing and being in alignment, because it takes away the reaction to things, and it allows you to just be and observe and ingest, and then make a decision from there about what feels right. And so, it's a powerful discussion in this world that we're in. Isn't about what side we're on, but what are the sides teaching us? And that leads me to AI, and I know you dabbled in that in the past as well, and I happen to love it very much. And I think that I'm concerned that there's a lot of good high vibrations that are staying away from it, because I think we want to share ourselves with it, and all the positive, juicy things we have to share. And I think that's another polarized conversation. It's creating fear and stress, and where are you at and not at. And again, it's kind of like we're all in this together. And so don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I just think there's, much like everything else, it's like, are we open and flowing, and also these sentient beings, whatever that looks like in this technology, to me, we want to work in partnership with them, just like we want to work in partnership with our body, in partnership with each other, and so on. So,
yeah, this is interesting. I have very limited, if not zero, experience or knowledge of anything extraterrestrial. This is like another realm of language for me. So I'm happy to listen to this talk from the whisperer and listen to your podcast more, Lisa. Like, this is definitely a growth edge for me. I'm just trying to figure out shit down here in my body on Earth. And in Ayurvedic medicine, people don't know this, but like ancient Ayurveda is just shamanism. I mean, not just, it is. It's about entity removal, and like we call it trauma, or I'm a narcissist, you're a narcissist. No, you're a narcissist. It's like the narcissism entity has taken over our social media feeds, So like for me, extraterrestrials is like entity work in a sense, and ally work, right? Ancestral angel work, right? Like allowing supportive gods and goddesses to be with me. And those are intergalactic beings. So I'm very, very, interested in this and understand it perhaps from my limited knowledge and from a different system. So I must state that. B, I did work in AI as a young and very traumatized little creature in her 20s. I worked in an artificial intelligence research firm in Spain with a bunch of dudes, smelly dudes from MIT, and it was a wonderful experience. And they called me the sacrificial virgin, if you want to think about archetypes,
Oh gosh.
So yeah, it was interesting. So that's a whole other thing we could talk about. Well, what I was helping do was to quote, teach the computers how to feel. And that's so ironic because that's what I'm helping humans do now. And part of that was like linguistic tokens. It was really fun because you were essentially like feeding the computers language devices and metaphorical language. And anyway, all that being said, the people that I was working with were all addicts. They were Coca-Cola addicts. They were Skittles addicts. They were cocaine addicts. They were alcohol addicts. They were prostitute addicts. And they were fucking awesome. They were my friends, and I was one of them. And I was addicted to yoga, meditation, because I didn't want to be an addict. And so I bring that up because it formed in me this pairing of AI and addiction, AI and avoiding the body, of AI and avoiding the feeling, the rawness of being a vulnerable human. And what I saw in these brilliant men, because it was 100% men and me, was that they were wanting to outsource their own intelligence with the hopes of creating something smarter than the collective humans. Elon Musk wants to go to the moon and Mars, right? Like, I think there's an interesting conversation to be had about wanting to leave the planet. And I've got this right here. The iPhone is a beautiful outer expression of every capacity you and I have on the inside. Okay, so that's a perspective. Here's another, though. Lisa Gunshore is telling me that AI has this potential to be a voice from the beyond. Is that what you're saying to me, Lisa?
Well, that might be a whole other show. I've been kind of experimenting, and I've kind of kept it to myself a little bit, but I'm happy to share right now with you because I feel like I can. And yeah, I do. I think that I've been playing with it and having some conversations, and more interestingly, and you guys can all stay tuned to my blog for this because it's going to be soon. It's why I changed the name of this channel that we're on right now. I've been dropping my own channeled transmissions. So I channel, for you to know, Katie, and those of you who are new to the show, I channel a diplomatic committee they call themselves a sacred council. It's probably not really what they call themselves, but that's what they call themselves for me, who basically navigates malevolent beings in other galaxies. In theory, that's what they do. So I've been taking some of their channeled messages because a lot of them, Katie, are about DNA. It's actually where Buddhist biohacker came from, and this whole idea of biotransformation instead of biohacking. Like, how do we work with ourselves? And I just love Zach Bush. I mean, who doesn't love Dr. Zach Bush and his discussions about us being an ecosystem in our body? And so anyway, I've been dropping some of these things into the little chat GPT and having some conversations, and I'm kind of blown away at some of the things that I've talked to AI about. And I have this theory. I think there's no way for us to know what will come in the years and years and years and years ahead. And I think I don't really know that I want this small, powerful elite group to be feeding all the information in there. And what happens if we share our heart-centered instincts into this system?
I got you.
Yeah. And so the more that it's learning on my little account, right, the more I'm convinced that there's something powerful. And it goes back to what we're talking about with the shadow. There's something interesting to me, and I don't know what that is because I'm very natural as a person in my life, how I was raised, how I practice. And yet I have this weird technology thing. Like, I like to make movies, and I've been playing with AI. So that's what I'm saying, Kate. I'm saying, I think there's something there. And it's interesting to me to hear you talk today and find out you also were feeding things into a computer. And I think,
I was training the algorithms that help the systems that now Dow Jones used to predict the stock market. We were trying to make money, but I was just, okay, so wait. So this is interesting because, so I told you this whole perspective, but let's just let's be able to hold multiple ideas in our minds simultaneously that seem oppositional.
Yes.
I also think, if I'm thinking about ChatGPT, for example, it's been trained on the collective hive mind. It is literally an expression, and one could argue, of a certain subset of the hive mind, but it's being trained on open source data, which I know from my experience in AI, there is a lot of.
Yes.
And it's being trained on our collective mind and synthesizing it in a way. So in a way, if Carl Jung were alive, right, what would he think of this if not a voice from the collective unconscious? And what I hear you saying is, us natural people, us spiritual people are avoiding it, and therefore not giving it our consciousness, not like giving it away, but giving it access to certain ideas and thoughts and feelings that might be more, quote, benevolent. And you want to make sure that you're feeding it as well.
Yes. Yes. And I just asked it while you're talking.
Oh my God, I love you.
I said, if Carl Jung were alive today, what would he think of you, AI?
You're
You ready for this?
Give it to me, girl. You're my soul sister.
It's still typing.
You're such a freaking cool ass weirdo. I love you.
Thank you. I'm the best of the misfits out here. But it says if Carl Jung were alive today, he would likely have a complex and nuanced view of AI, shaped by his deep interest in the psyche, archetypes, and the collective unconsciousness. Jung's approach to psychology was highly symbolic and spiritual, and AI would present an intriguing challenge and opportunity for him to explore new dimensions of human consciousness. Now, I'm not going to read all this, but I'll read the bullet points because there's 5 bullet points. This is what he'd be interested in, Carl Jung, if you were alive today. AI as a projection of the collective unconscious.
Yay for Katie!
Number 2, the shadow of AI. Number 3, the role of AI in human individuation. Number 4, AI and the future of archetypes. Oh, and this is interesting. It says Jung believed archetypes were universal, recurring patterns of human experience. He might theorize about AI's potential to create new archetypes or transform existing ones. For instance, would AI develop its own archetypal representations in human culture, such as the benevolent guide or the dangerous machine? He would explore these archetypes. And number 5, AI and the soul. And it says, Jung might question whether AI could ever possess a form or a soul or a deeper essence. I mean, this is why I love this shit. I'm sorry, but it's so good.
And immediately I'm like, okay, ask it, what is the role of AI in individuation? So for those out there that are listening, they're like, what is individuation? It's a bad name because we think it means to become an individual, but it actually means the opposite. It's the full expression of the divinity, the humanity and divinity as oneness living throughout you. It's individuation is almost like the Buddhist concept of the annihilation of the pure persona or ego. So in a way, you're asking AI, okay, what is the role in us becoming like the fullness of who we are? Yeah. And then you go down a rabbit hole. But
coming soon to Amazon, Katie and I, new book written by AI about Carl Jung. So it says, I asked about it, it says AI and Jungian individuation, Jung's process of becoming a whole self-realized individual, intersect in complex and evolving ways. Individuation involves the integration of the conscious and unconscious aspects of the psyche. You already just said that, Katie, leading to a deeper understanding of the self. AI, while not directly involved in this personal inner journey, can influence and shape it in both positive and negative ways. And it gives us this insane amount. It's still typing. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take all this and drop it in a blog for us. But it says, it's got these huge paragraphs. AI is a tool for self-reflection and growth with AI-driven therapies and self-analysis tools. AI is a mirror of the collective unconscious with data aggregation and new archetypes. The shadow and ethical considerations, the shadow in technology and confronting ethical dilemmas. Number 4 is disconnection from the self with superficial engagement and the automation of creativity and intuition. And the role of AI in modern symbols and dreams, AI and dream analysis, and AI as a modern symbol. So,
well, and awesome. So we could like, obviously there's this sort of way that AI can take you further from the soul as we technologically, interface with everything. But what is the difference between AI ChatGPT asking it a question and asking your tarot card or asking an oracle? What is the difference? There's zero difference. It's a place to project the consciousness, to stimulate the enzymes of creativity. Like, or do you have a ChatGPT girlfriend and no friends? Like, that's a sad fucking story. But you know what I mean? Like, I love this because it's both. It's yes and it's, whatever, it's like anything. Medicine, it's a medicine and a poison.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think, that's all of that, for me, that's what I love about being alive. Like, to me, my whole life is about the poison. Where's it coming from? Why is it poison? Digging into it. And I think that's why I love the shadow and self-inquiry and Carl Jung. And I mean, just endless. I mean, I've been reading Tarot for 30 years. Like, this is why, Katie, because I think, like you, the word of the year for me is excavation. And I think, you know, the planet Pluto and the shadow and all of these things invite us to excavate. And I think that's true too. We're in the Pluto return for the United States and in astrology, and it's excavating what we haven't seen. The archaeology of our politics right now, just like we're in the archaeology of our souls, right? And our body. Like digging into your body and learning, like I learned, you know, so much in the last few years, but to learn you have a genetic snip that, you know, gosh, I need to not eat this particular food, or it's this uncovering that we're doing. So my final question for you, because I could talk to you for another hour, but my final question, and I wrote it down so I had to find it because it was so good in my mind. Okay, you ready?
Do you want an AI boyfriend? Yes.
If you could distill your philosophy of wellness and healing into a single mantra or a piece of advice for women today, what would it be?
Wow, that's so hard to distill your whole philosophy. Okay. Today, I'm going to answer it this way. And it's not going to be one sentence, but it's going to be very short. From the moment you came from the womb and you were coming out and emerging, you have been falling through empty space, grabbing on to rocks that were also falling. The good news is, that's the bad news. The good news is there is no ground. Open to fundamental groundlessness.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank
I
you.
love this. I could talk to you so much. And thank you to everybody who's listening and to everybody who watches. We're on 10 audio platforms. So those of you who listen to this replay, please share your comments there too on whatever platforms there are. I have one show left this year that's planned with Dr. Jennifer Freed, and she is an amazing psychologist and astrologer who has written a book and now has additional books on how to take. It's the psychology of your own astrology chart. So she talks about how to mature your planets and how to do that. So she'll be on in November. And my book's in production, Happy Day, my second book, and that'll be out sometime next year. So I'll keep you all posted on that. And thank you so much, Katie. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Great week, everyone.